Tax planning for parents in 2024. This is an updated version of a prior video. So parents actually pay quite a bit higher tax brackets than other people that are not parents. And I'm going to show you that it actually makes quite a difference in their planning. So they're in quite a bit higher tax brackets. They hit the higher brackets in a far lower income, and it changes a lot of the planning, like what you do with RSPs and what you do with other deductions like Smith Manoeuvre. And it actually has a really big effect on the whole thing. And you may not see this anywhere else, this video, but I was trying to show you the effective tax rates, and it's quite shocking. So what we're going to cover today is, first of all, why are effective tax rates higher for parents? Does the higher tax bracket for parents really start at only 17,000? That's low. How does the Canada Child Benefit work? That's a CCB. Why is the CCB clawback a game changer for your tax planning? What are the benefits and how much is the clawback of the ACCB program? What tax rates apply to parents? Why do parents benefit more from RSP contributions? Why do parents benefit more from the Smith Maneuver? Why should parents avoid dividend-paying stocks? And how does staying home with your kids affect your tax? I know this is we're in tax planning for parents. Let's talk about this as a common issue. Okay, first of all, why are effective tax rates higher for parents? So parents get a very generous benefit called the Canada Child Benefit. It's actually quite generous, but it's also a very large tax increase for parents. And it's because it is clawed back based on your income. Now, some people say that's a clawback, it's not a tax, but it is effectively the same thing. It's money that goes to from you to the government based on your taxable income. So it's exactly the same thing as a tax. So how does the Canada Child Benefit work? So you can see how generous it is. 7,437 a year for every child under 6, and 6,275 a year for children 6 to 17. So it's quite a generous amount, but it's clawback between 7 and 23%. So that's quite high, the clawback rates at quite a low income, 35,000. Now that's for a single earner, a single family or a family with only one person earning. If you have a couple with about equal earnings split between you, so the clawback starts at only 17,000, which is really low, and the clawback extends all the way up to somewhere between 220 and 290,000, depending on how many kids you have. So it starts really low and it goes really high. So here's what it is. So these are the amount of benefits. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4 kids, here's how much you actually get in benefit. So you can see it could be quite a bit for the two different ages. But then if you look at, so here's the clawback, it starts at 35,000, up to 75,000, you get these high clawback rates, 7, 13, 19, 23, quite high. And then over 75, it's pretty low clawback rate. And that's why it takes a long time before you actually get nothing out of this. So why is the CCB clawback a game changer for your tax planning? It can put you in a high tax bracket with income of only 35,000. For a couple, your high tax bracket can start at only 17,000. That's really low. It makes RSP contributions worthwhile at much lower income. I'll show you that in a minute. And it gives you higher tax savings for any kind of deduction, for RSP, for Smith Maneuver, any other deduction. And it makes staying home with kids easier. So, okay, so let's take a look at what the tax brackets are. So this is the 2024 tax brackets. Now the zero here, this is the number of kids, and that's the income level. So this is the tax bracket here. So the zero is, people who are not parents. These are the normal tax rates, okay? There's 15,000 free, and then you're the 20% bracket and the 30, and so that's how it goes. And I've got them coded by color. The more kids you have, you see the higher bracket you get, and it's because all I've done is I've taken the tax bracket, and I've added the clawback that you get. So the amount of CCB that you lose for every dollar of income. So see, below 35,000, you don't lose any. Okay, but above that, you lose it quite a bit. And just to show you the effect, so for someone who's making 60,000 a year, it's 30,000 for a non-parent, but it's 43, 49, 53% for people who have 2, 3, 4 kids. And if you look at the amount of income as, so for 2 kids, you're at 43% bracket. Well, that's for a non-parent. That's what they are at 150,000, not 60. And for 3 kids, 49 is like 200,000. And 4 kids, 53%. So what you're paying at 60,000, the marginal tax bracket you're in is the same as non-parents paying at 250,000. So the high tax brackets hit way lower income. Now, this is 2 parents making roughly even income. Okay, so it's proportionally. So if it's 2 parents, then you got to divide it in half. So it's not 35,000. It was down to 17,000 where it starts. And now you'll see this 34,000. So at 20,000 of income, it's 20% for a non-parent, but for parents, it's 34, 39, and 43% marginal tax bracket. This is at only 20,000 of income. That's really low. I'm talking minimum wage people are taxed with 4 kids are taxed at 43%. Crazy, eh? So the 2 kids, 34% tax bracket. Non-parents don't hit that till over 100. 3 kids, non-parents don't hit it until 110, and 4 kids, they don't hit it until 150,000. They're paying 43%. So you can see it hit much lower, and it's quite a bit higher tax. So it makes quite a bit of difference. So see, with RSP, most people are retiring. If you plan effectively, you can retire in the lowest tax bracket, 20%. So it's worth doing RSP if your tax bracket now is over 20%. So we often say, for people over 55,000, you get generally you got to be over 55,000 of taxable income before it's worth doing RSP. However, so that's you go back to one parent working. It's now 35,000. It's actually worth you're well over 20%. So even at a much lower level, it's worth doing RSP. So why do parents benefit more from RSP contributions? So first of all, one RSP contribution worth doing. For non-parents, it's if you have more than 55,000 of taxable income. Parents, 35,000, and a couple of equal incomes, it's only 17,000. So it's worth doing with very low incomes. Now, I get that people making this low income are going to have trouble, and they have kids to pay for. It's not going to be easy to make an RSP contribution, but it is really, really worthwhile. Look at the different tax brackets that you're in. With, if you're making 40,000 a year, these are the brackets you're in based on the number of kids you have. Why do parents benefit more from the Smith Maneuver? So basically all tax deductions save you more as a parent because you're in these higher marginal tax brackets. Basically, you get a smaller clawback of the CCB. So your interest deductions from the Smith Maneuver give you larger tax savings for parents than for non-parents. So the other thing is, it's just kind of a planning thing. Kids are expensive. They're actually really expensive. I've helped a lot of people in finances, and I can tell you, kids are expensive. And so parents often find it much harder to, make their cash flow work and all that. But the Smith Maneuver is a way to invest for your retirement without using your cash flow. So that's why it tends to work. First of all, it just helps make the plan work because you don't have a lot of cash flow and you get, more savings out of it. So why should parents avoid dividend paying stocks? Now, so what happens? So there's a clawback of between 3 and 23% applies on the grossed up dividend. So now if you know how dividends are taxed, these are Canadian dividends, they show as 38% higher taxable income than you get. So if you get a 10,000 dividend, it shows as 13,800 of taxable income on your tax return. Then you get this tax credit, which is how it kind of works. But so the clawback is 38% more on Canadian dividends than on any other income. And the clawback is often even larger than the tax on the dividend. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So let's take relatively modest. These are your taxable incomes without the dividend. And then let's say you get a 5,000 dividend. Well, here's the actual tax. So notice with low incomes, you actually get negative tax on dividends. It's very low. But, people say that if you make 60,000 of a dividend, you pay no tax, but it's actually not true. You pay some tax. And at 105, you're paying 612. Now, if you get a 5,000 dividend, it shows a 6,900 on your tax return, and therefore the clawback is not being affected. But here you see this clawback hits in, and this is the amount of the CCB clawback that you pay. And so the funny thing is, even with 60,000 income, look at this, you pay 320 tax on the dividend, but you lose $900 on the clawback, so you're paying $1,200 in total. So you're really in a 25% bracket on dividends there. So it's not really that tax preferred of a thing. But notice it's hardly any tax. It's very low tax if you don't have the clawback. But for parents, it's pretty high tax, fairly high. So how does staying at home with your kid affect your tax? So first of all, you lose your income, but most parents look at this. I lose my income, but I can, maybe save on daycare, right? Or maybe don't need daycare at all. So that's the offset that a lot of people should think about. But in addition to that, there's the tax issues. So for one is staying at home gives you a larger Canada pension, CCB, Canada Child Benefit, and it gives your working spouse a tax credit. So let's take an example. There's a couple, one makes 50, one makes 75. The one makes 50 is going to stay home. The one that makes 75 keeps working. I'm sorry. So if they both work, Here's what happens. Let's compare both works with only one of them works. So this is what the stay-at-home person makes, right? If they both work, the stay-at-home person is making 50, but if that one is not working, it's 0, right? Now that's the gross tax. So your actual take-home pay from 50,000 is 40,000. So really you're losing 40. Okay. And then you get 15,000 of CCB, but notice there's a difference on the clawback. And this is because it's family income. So here it's based on 125,000 income, the clawback of 9,700. But here it's only worth on the 75,000 spouses that's working. So it's a $3,000 less of a clawback. Also, the spouse that's working, the $75,000 income spouse, gets a 20% clawback or tax credit on the spousal tax credit. It's a 15,000 credit, which translates to about a 3,000 refund. And then let's say you saved 1,500 bucks a month as kind of an average number out here in Ontario. So overall, you're about $15,000 worse off. Now, a lot of people think, it costs nothing to stay home. Well, actually, I think that's kind of a justification because they really want to stay home, but it costs much less than you think. You got an income of 50,000. I'm going to stay home. I'm actually only going to have 15,000 less income. And that means I can stay home with my child. Now, some people love doing that. Some people don't. So, but it's a trade-off, but I'm just showing you that the cost of it is actually much lower than you might think. All right. Well, thanks for listening. So here's what we talked about today. We talked about why the effective tax rates are higher for parents. Does the higher tax bracket for parents really start at only 17,000? How does child benefit work? Why is the CCB clawback a game changer for your tax planning? What are the benefits and how much is the clawback? What tax rates apply to parents? Why do parents benefit more from RSP contributions? And why do parents benefit more from Smith Manoeuvre? Why should parents avoid the dividend-paying stocks? And how does staying home with your kids affect your tax? All right. Well, thanks a lot for listening. My name is Ed Rempel. My blog is Unconventional Wisdom. It's the #1 blog in Canada for a financial planner. It's just at edrempel.com, my name, or it's just unconventionalwisdom.ca. Remember, it's the Canada one.ca.com is some scam site. So if you want a free consultation, you want to potentially talk to us, there's no pressure on that. All you do is go to edrempel.com/talk. And I'd appreciate if you subscribe to the blog, podcast, and YouTube. All that means is you get an email, once a week with anything new that I've done, and you can watch it if you want to see it. And you can watch, read, or listen. So my podcast is edrempel.com/listen, and the YouTube is edrempel.com/watch. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.